How to talk to sellers and crush your cold calling. What's up, guys? Zach in here.
Rick in here.
And in today's video, we're going to break down exactly how to talk to sellers the right way and absolutely in your cold calling, just how to absolutely crush it. If you know exactly how to crush the conversation in your cold calling with your sellers, you're going to absolutely destroy it in your cold calling business and destroy your competition. So before we get into it, guys, before we break down exactly how to talk to sellers the right way to crush your cold calling, please smash that like button and subscribe, and let's get into it. In cold calling, the best script is the most simple one. So when you're talking to your sellers, it's really important when you're cold calling them to say the right script. In our opinion, the 2-question script is absolutely the best, and that's the one we have our VAs do and we have everyone do.
Yeah, so those 2 questions, the initial goal with them is to weed through your list. If I had 500 people on a list, understanding probably right off the bat, 90% of them aren't going to pass the snuff test. So that's the goal with the first 2 questions, is to get to the business of finding a motivated seller. So you don't spend 5 or 10 minutes with people who have no interest in selling their house. Remember, the goal here is the more you can make it a conversation, the better odds you're going to connect with the seller to build the maximum amount of rapport. So we go from the 2 questions to the 4 questions. Everyone's heard this before. So number 1, we're going to find out if we have a motivated seller. We're going to ask the questions, and we're going to find out the condition of the property. We're eventually going to find out the price and then the time frame. Those 4 questions will gauge the entire motivation of your seller. And remember, all you have to do is memorize those 4 key points of the questions, and that will allow you to have a conversation as opposed to having a script written out word for word. It might feel like you do a little bit better, but in the long run, if you figure out the points with the conversation, you will go much deeper and further with your seller to build the maximum amount of rapport. Would you agree?
100%. The reason why you talk to your sellers like this is because you're being real. If you use a script, what if someone asks you a question that's off script? You're screwed, right? If you kind of have a rough framework of where you want to steer the conversation, you're not going to be like, oh my gosh, what do I ask next? You have a good framework, and it's going to help you a lot. Again, another huge reason why we say the 4 questions here is because, not for our own health, if we can get these 4 questions done and we can really qualify them, we're going to get rid of the tire kickers, the people that aren't qualified, and the ones that aren't good wholesaling deals. It's the fastest way we have found in cold calling in over 25 years of combined wholesaling knowledge to have the best efficiency with cold calling is just asking those 4 questions.
Correct. And then if you think about, instead of memorizing a script, if you take just your 4 questions and just have bullet points, when they ask you a question, like they jump to the time of selling the property, you can just draw a little line through it. And that way, when it comes to the final part of your conversation with them and you think you're missing something, if you put a line through 3 of the 4 items, you know that's the last question you got to ask. So many people with scripts, the minute you go from like number 4 to 8, it's very hard to get back on the flow. That's why we recommend on memorizing the 4 points. It will enable you to have a conversation much more naturally.
I agree. The next part here is if you want to have better conversations with sellers and, just seem like you're doing better in your acquisition skills, just talking to sellers, talk to more motivated sellers. I kind of feel like you and me are really good talking to sellers, but we look terrible when we're talking to an unmotivated seller, right?
It's painful.
So if someone's not motivated, even the best saleswoman or salesman, they're going to do terrible because they're not qualified. It's like selling peanut butter to someone who's deathly allergic to peanut butter. It's just not going to be a good sale. Don't care how good of a salesperson you are. Next part here is talking to sellers the right way, or tips. If you're talking to a true motivated seller, they're not going to run you over. They're not going to try to pin you in a corner. They're going to talk to you, and they're going to want to sell the property. They're motivated, right? So the next tip here is you need great lists. These are government lists, drawing for dollars. These government lists could be water shutoffs, fire damaged properties, tax liens, pre-foreclosures. These are absolutely killer lists to be cold calling. Also, if you want good cold calling results, talk to sellers that aren't getting bombarded to 4 or 5 calls a day from other wholesalers. Wouldn't you agree if you talk to a seller that hasn't gotten one person to call them about selling their house, they're probably a lot more receptive and nice to you, and it's a better conversation, a better chance of a deal, versus that seller when you call them, it's like their 8th call of the day, right?
No, I agree. It's more of a challenge to find that type of seller, but I know it's harder to find these types of lists where not every wholesaler in the world's contacting them. But if you put in the effort and find these off-market lists through code violations, government lists, the list is endless. If you actually have a conversation with these people, you can take the deal down with little to absolutely no competition. And remember, it always starts with a conversation. You said earlier, we talk about like being a good salesman. In my opinion, if you can have good conversations, I'll take the conversationalist over the salesman any day in wholesaling.
The next part here is something shockingly not a lot of people do in cold calling, which is a huge chance of having success. And even talking to sellers in general is smile, right? Scientifically, when you smile when you're talking to someone or just talking to a seller, you're going to be in a better mood. The seller's going to feel it, even if it's over the phone, and that conversation is going to go way smoother, right?
Yeah. Remember, communication is 70% nonverbal. So I know they can't see you, maybe you're doing a Zoom or something like that on some of the virtual, but if you'll just take some extra habits to get a consistent communication style, and you're probably saying, Rick, Zach, how do I do that? Honestly, like crazy things, just putting a little mirror in front of your computer, just little reminders to smile, or even just like putting a smiley face on a little note next to it while you're calling, and maybe some positive affirmations, because your tone will come through in the conversation. Yeah. And if you want to talk about what makes the difference for us, I'm sharing you right now. Be a conversationalist. Take the extra steps.
This kind of brings down to the tonality thing too. It's your tonality with the seller is going to be really important. I always say, and you say this too, be a chameleon with your sellers.
It drives me nuts. So I'm naturally a fast talker. So when I talk to someone who talks really slow, it kind of drives me nuts.
When you get excited, you talk fast.
Really fast.
That's
like,
the thing.
especially when I talk about wholesaling. So the key is, though, what happens in that nonverbal communication is if you're the seller and you're talking really slow and then I talk slow, it means I'm listening to you and I get how you operate. And that's the key. When people, so if Zach's a slow talker and I'm a fast talker, you're never really going to connect, because they always feel like, why are you talking so fast? What's wrong with you? So remember, you got to go in your seller's world. And once again, it is kind of a nonverbal thing. It's just the speed and then tonality. Yeah. By using high and low inflections in your voice, we've talked to several people who go, well, Rick, I have an accent. It's really hard. So if you've mastered another language, a lot of times it's just tonality and how you pronounce stuff. And after a while, it would become habit. It's just practice. So be careful on the tone you use and the speed you use it. And like you said earlier, just be a chameleon. If they're a soft speaker, speak soft. If they're loud, speak loud. It goes a long way. They actually feel like they connect with you on a different level. I can't even describe it, but in 20 years of doing this, it makes a huge difference. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. And here's probably the last and most important part here is what makes a person with an accent. There's people with really thick accents from Asia, Latin America, Europe, that they think they're not good. But then you have people who have those thick accents and then they make 7 figures and they're the best acquisitions person ever. What's the difference between there? Number one's your thinking, right? It's confidence.
Correct.
Confidence is going to be absolutely key. So if there's one word, one thing you get out of this video from us that we have both seen, there's absolutely one thing that's going to be the key difference between you actually getting a deal or not with cold calling, talking to sellers, anything, confidence, right?
Yeah. So confidence is a skill set that is collected through repetition of usually successful events. Listen, not every seller you're going to talk to is going to work out. Yeah. But if you get consistent and you go, okay, I'm going to stay persistent and I'm going to turn this into consistency, you'll keep going. And then when a deal goes through, you're like, okay, Zach and Rick were right. They told me to keep following through, be confident. And how do you be confident? You have conversations. And here's the really cool part. When you don't know the answer to something, just confidently say, I don't know exactly, but let me get back with them and set up a follow-up time with them. That way, you're consistent, you're answering questions, and as that confidence builds, amazing things happen because you keep doing it over and over. It's okay if you don't have a deal yet and you're just starting it out. You have to work on your confidence. How do you work on confidence? Be confident in how you're talking to sellers. The best way to do it is conversation and practice.
I'm telling you right now, and fake it till you make it sounds bad, but at the end of the day, remember, you having the confidence is either, oh, I don't know if it's going to go well or whatever. Just think, your confidence should come from, hey, I know exactly how to help this person out and I'm ready to do it. You're helping people out. You should have all the confidence in the world doing that. not of I have to close this person or something. It's just I need to help someone out.
So keep this in mind, is we all have to start somewhere. So 20 years ago, I had to sit there and take down my first deal. I'm going to be honest with you, my confidence wasn't that great. I took a little faith and kept going forward. And then every step forward, I had confidence. And then same thing when you started 5 years ago. You're like, Dad, I've never done this before. I'm like, you can do it. It just all you're going to do is have a conversation. If you guys will look at these as conversations with real people and helping them out and earning a great income while you do it, then that's where the confidence is going to come from.
100%. Guys, this is how you talk to sellers. This is how you crush your cold calling. These are the top cold calling tips. Guys, if you got any value of this video, please smash that like button and subscribe, and we'll see you soon. This is Zach In signing out.
Rick In signing out.
Have a blessed one.
Thanks, guys.